Welcome to Mid-Century Living, your weekly nostalgia podcast about the best of technology and culture from the mid-20th century.
Welcome to episode 50 of Mid-Century Living, the show where we talk all about the best of the mid-20th century and how to add the vintage vibes to your modern life. We are your hosts, Gonzalo.
And Jackie, thank you for joining us today. So today we're continuing on with our month of spooky topics, and today we're talking about the Addams Family. But first, Gonzalo, how was your week?
So my week was great, and I have a couple of things. One of them is food talk. My second one we'll talk about after food talk. But because it is spooky season and because we are in October, yesterday I made, not on purpose, but it turned out to be, a October-inspired shepherd's pie.
Cool.
I was roasting a pumpkin because I was gonna make stuffed pumpkin. So I roast a pumpkin and like you scoop out the insides, and then while that's roasting, you are making like the stuffing, which I made with onion, bell pepper, ground chicken, and mushrooms. And I was gonna mix that with the puree from inside of the thing, and then put them back in the pumpkin halves, and like finish them in the oven, and then serve them in the halves. But when I left the pumpkin too much time in the oven, so whenever I pulled it out, the skin just peeled completely off. Oh. So I just made mashed pumpkin, like mashed potatoes, and then layered the stuffing and then the mashed potatoes on top. Oh, the mashed pumpkin on top, and it was delicious. And I'm sure that my description of the food was like so super amazing radio, but
no, that sounds
it was
delicious.
So good.
There are foodies who listen to us, surely. We talk about food too much, too. We probably only have foodies left, honestly, because we've alienated everyone else with how much we talk about food on the show.
True. Well, this is your sign, everyone out there, to go make yourself a pumpkin shepherd's pie.
That sounds great.
It was so good. I have so much left over, and I don't mean so much. I have a pan. And that's going to be my post-show food, because my pre-show food was chicken salad. Which, Jackie, before I hit record, goes, we should have a segment set called, What is Gonzalo eating today?
Well, I think we just started that segment just now.
That's true. Anyway, that was my food talk thing for the week. My other thing is that we are recording our 50th episode.
We are! Yay, us! And we picked a really fun topic for it, too. It's funny that it fell. I feel like we would have done something more fancy for it if it didn't fall in October, but October spooky vibes supersede any
I think that's fitting.
Celebration.
Yeah.
But yay, happy 50th to us.
Yeah, so what about your week?
My week was good. I finally finished decorating the outside of the house, and all of my decorations came out smaller than I pictured them in my head.
Smaller?
Yeah, like I bought them weeks ago and then like just kept them in there, like in the corner of my room until it was like time to actually decorate. And then by the in my head, I made them into these like really big spectacular things, and then I actually hung them up, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's like a normal size decoration. I've got a cute fuzzy spider lady with her with drapey fabric legs around the front of my house, and I got this light up spider web that like you hook on the gutter, and then you like strap it into the grass. And then this week I finally made a little Halloween wreath to go with it. And it turned out exactly as I pictured it in my head, except for I bought a 12-inch wreath form for some reason. Because, when I was standing there at Joann's, the big ones, they only had, huge wreaths or 12-inch wreaths. I'm like, a 12-inch wreath, this is a normal-sized wreath. But no, it is a smaller than normal-sized wreath. I should have gone big. But it looks exactly like I wanted it to look. I just, wish it was twice as big. So maybe it'll be my, practice wreath, and I'll just, harvest some of those pieces, and next year I'll make a bigger one. If I keep my spider theme. But it's I wrapped the whole thing in orange garland, and I put little tiny white Christmas ornaments on it, and glued little spider rings to it, so it looks like the spiders are coming out of their eggs. Sorta. But, cute.
Anyway. I saw that post you put on Instagram with your wreath, and talking about it now reminds me that since I have seen something else that's spooky, and I know I'm hijacking your side of
no, that's fine. That was all I got. So go ahead.
Okay. I saw a video which is the scariest thing I've seen online, because it was a guy playing with a Black Widow spider. As in, like, you know, like when you have a hamster and you let the hamster crawl in your hands and stuff?
Yeah.
It was that, but it was a Black Widow spider.
That's crazy.
And like you see the spider like crawling all over his hands and through his fingers. No gloves. And then, like, you know, the spider's, I don't know, stuck out its butt to like spin web. I don't know what spiders do. And like he like pet it and like it moved his butt.
Okay, I kind of love that. It's dumb, but I love that. I want to pet a spider.
But anyway,
I really thought the only spiders you could pet were
I
tarantulas. Well, I kind of like that it like stuck out its butt for pets. I don't know, that makes it cute. It's dangerous as heck though. That's like petting a rattlesnake.
Or a Black Widow spider.
Yeah, or a pet Black Widow. Like, I don't know. You just really shouldn't. You shouldn't hang out with poisonous critters like that.
True. That is a mid-century living top tip, guys. Do not pet spiders. And with that,
well, now that we're back to something spooky, we should transition into today's topic. So,
yes.
Like all topics I pick out, they start a little bit before the mid-century, so I'm going to have you start the show.
Sweet. The resident history nerd to the rescue. So, most people think that the Addams Family began with a TV sitcom, but it actually goes back further. They all started with a cartoon series in the New Yorker as far back as the late 1930s. So, Charles Addams was born in 1912 in Westfield, New Jersey. And in high school, Addams fell in love with illustration and ended up at New York City's Grand Central School of Art. In 1932, while still a student, he sold his first cartoon to the New Yorker. And they paid him $7.50 at the time, which would be $172 in today's money. So the first Addams Family cartoon was published in 1938, and it was a one-panel gag format. And it looks really cool. Charles Addams became a regular contributor to the New Yorker and drew approximately 1,300 cartoons between then and his death in 1988. 58 of these would feature the Addams Family, almost all of which were published in the 1940s and 1950s. So who were the Addamses? So the Addams Family are an eccentric, old money clan who delight in the dark and the macabre. They are seemingly unaware or unconcerned that other people find them bizarre or frightening. The Addams Family consists of Gomez and Morticia Addams, their children Wednesday and Pugsley, close family members Uncle Fester and Grandmama, their butler Lurch, Thing, a disembodied hand. Some other notable characters include Pugsley's pet octopus Aristotle, Gomez's cousin It, Morticia's pet lion Kitty Cat, and Morticia's carnivorous plant Cleopatra. Members of the family were introduced one by one. Morticia first, Gomez joined 4 years later, then Pugsley, and finally Wednesday and Uncle Fester shortly after. Addams said in an interview that Fester resembled himself, quote, plus a little more hair.
Which is funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those of you out there, Google what Uncle Fester looks like. Family members were actually unnamed until the 1960s. Wednesday was first given a name in 1962 for a licensed doll collection. The others were named during the development of the television series in 1963. And a fun fact here is that the editor of the New Yorker, William Shawn, actually prevented any new Addams Family cartoons from being printed after the launch of the television series.
Interesting. So, like, that whole phase of their life was disappeared by the time the television show came up. So I think that's why a lot of people just think it started with the television show.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But that brings us to the TV series, so I'll take over from here. So the television show debuted in September 1964 on ABC on a Friday, which is a good spot for television, I think.
And for podcasts.
The show was created partially as a response to the planned CBS sitcom The Munsters, which I also like. What's interesting is that both of them shared some of the same spooky DNA, and they both debuted and got canceled within days of each other. But more on that later.
Huh.
So the TV show cast was John Astin as Gomez, Carolyn Jones as Morticia, Ted Cassidy as Lurch, Lisa Loring as Wednesday, and Ken Weatherwax as Pugsley. The TV show wasn't as dark as the strips. It was more zany than spooky, but it captured the flavor of what Charles Addams was doing in The New Yorker. So, The Addams Family was the opposite of the typical fish out of water sitcom setup. In this show, it was the normal people who were the outsiders. Most of the tone of the show was due to series producer Nat Perrin, who also contributed gags to the Marx Brothers classic Monkey Business. So if you're familiar with that kind of humor, that makes sense. The series often employed the same type of zany satire and screwball humor seen in the Marx Brothers films, like wordplay, physical comedy, and occasional slapstick. Perrin created story ideas, directed one episode, and rewrote every script, so he had a huge hand in the tone. Have you ever watched any of the series?
Of the original Addams Family series, I've seen the occasional episode here and there, but I wouldn't say I've watched enough to say that I've watched the show, if that makes sense.
It's at least enough to get the vibes. It's like a lot of visual gags. Yeah. Like they don't tell a lot of jokes, but like funny things are happening around, and that's mostly what the jokes are, just like funny things happening in the situation. Since it was basically a live-action cartoon, the show got away with showing a husband and wife with actual romantic passion for one another, which is pretty significant considering the time period. And as we covered on our previous episodes of sitcoms, most husbands and wives weren't even allowed in the same bed or in the bedroom at the same time, laying down and stuff like that. But Gomez and Morticia are generally considered the first television couple who gave the appearance of an active sex life, so good for them. Not only did they have an amorous marriage, but they also had really obedient children. So even though Wednesday and Pugsley did things like playing with medieval torture devices for fun, they were also just really good kids who loved their parents. Generally, the Addamses went against all of society's norms, but they were a healthy and happy family, and that's what makes them so endearing.
It does, and I've always loved that the kids play with like torture stuff, because they're like, "Hey, I'm gonna go nail my tongue to the door," and then like, really? Because then you have an injury. The show also had one of the best TV theme songs of all time. Charles Addams loved the song. The song was written by Vic Missy, who also wrote theme songs for Green Acres and for Shirley Temple's series Storybook. In addition to writing the Addams Family theme song, he also directed the opening title sequence.
Indeed.
The show was mildly successful. It did fine in the ratings, ending the first season at number 23 in the Nielsen's Behind the Monsters. The strangest thing that it inspired during its run was a hit dance called The Lurch in 1965, and we will include a link in our show notes. Hanna-Barbera also parodied the show in November 1964 by introducing a family named the Gruesomes to the Flintstones. Unfortunately, though, the show was canceled in 1966, after only 2 years and 64 episodes in total. No official reason was ever given for the quick cancellation, but it's probably not a coincidence that in 1965, NBC produced all but 2 of its shows in color, seeing a change in broadcast television as the black and white era was coming to an end and the color era was beginning to take hold in our TV sets.
It sure was. The sudden cancellation in 1966 also brought issues for Charles Addams, as he faced a sudden drop in income with the show no longer in development. His second wife, Barbara Barb, which is a great name, who was a practicing lawyer.
I'm sorry, Barbara Barb?
Sounds like a Hanna-Barbera character, actually. She was a practicing lawyer and had convinced Addams to sign over the rights to future television and film adaptations to her. He was married several times. I forgot to actually write down how many times, so this was just one of his ex-wives. Got the Addams Family in the divorce. But the Addams Family in general remained in the popular consciousness even after the series concluded, thanks in no small part to the Lurch dance move remaining popular through the 1960s. Hanna-Barbera also animated a 1972 Addams Family crossover episode with Scooby-Doo, which actually led to a 1973 animated series about the Addams Family. The animated incarnation featured a whole new cast except for the actor Felix Sela, who returned as Cousin It. The show had pretty good ratings and spawned a line of children's merchandise, but only aired 16 episodes. The Addams Family really found new life in syndication. The reruns ran for decades, and they were particularly popular in Australia, which was an interesting fact that I read.
Yeah.
It was still shown in 30 markets as late as 1991, and its cult following grew.
And that brings us to the Addams Family revival in the early 90s. The head of production at 20th Century Fox, Scott Rudin, pitched an Addams Family film, but Fox did not have the rights to the franchise. The rights were at the time split between two parties: the late Addams' second wife, Barbara Barb, best name ever, and Orion Pictures.
Best name ever.
After Barb sold her rights to Orion, the studio brought Rudin on board to produce the film. And fun fact, Tim Burton was considered for director, but the role ultimately went to Barry Stonefield. Production on the film was troubled. Multiple script rewrites, a burst blood vessel in Raul Julia's eye delayed shooting for a week. The director of photography quit the production 3 months from completion, forcing Sonnenfeld to take on the role in addition to his existing responsibilities. And it was actually Sonnenfeld's directorial debut, and it was apparently so stressful that he actually passed out on set once. Wow.
Right.
Orion faced financial issues and sold the project and the Addams Family rights to Paramount mid-production. But ultimately, they released 2 films, and they were both awesome: The Addams Family in 1991 and The Addams Family Values in 1993. Both films received nominations for Academy Awards, BAFTA Awards, and Hugo Awards.
Yes, they are both awesome, and honestly, this is the version of the Addams Family I grew up
Yes.
with. I don't know about you, but I came to the TV series later because I just kind of grew up rewatching the Addams Family and the Addams Family Values over and over again in my childhood
Yes.
for some reason.
In Argentina, they're known as the Crazy Addams.
The Crazy Addams,
the,
it's cute.
Los Locos Addams.
I love that. So this cast is the cast like when I close my eyes and think of the Addams Family, I picture these actors. So Angelica Houston as Morticia. Fun fact, she was twice nominated for the Golden Globe Award for Best Actress for this role. Raul Julia as Gomez, Christina Ricci as Wednesday, Christopher Lloyd as Uncle Fester, and Joan Cusack as Fester's wife Debbie in the sequel.
I don't know. Joan
I know.
Cusack as Debbie was amazing. Notwithstanding the pastel color scene, which brings us Angelica Houston's best comeback. Pastels, really?
What pastels? Raul Julia, Christina Ricci, Christopher Lloyd, and Joan Cusack all received multiple Saturn Award and American Comedy Award nominations for their portrayals. Another new character was introduced in the 1993 film Pubert Addams, Wednesday and Pugsley's infant brother. And fun fact, Pubert was actually one of the names that Charles Addams was thinking about when trying to figure out how to name Pugsley. So using that name in the Addams Family Values was a little callback to that.
That's cool.
So following the wave of interest in the franchise, we get 2 other really great things that I was really into in the 90s. Another animated television series that came out in 1992. John Astin actually reprised his role as Gomez, the original Gomez, almost 30 years after his first appearance in the role in 1964. And it was nominated for 4 Daytime Emmy Awards, including one for Astin. Also in 1992, a pinball machine based on the franchise was released, which is my favorite thing. Anytime I find myself at an arcade, I always check, and there's always an Addams Family pinball machine, and it is the most fun ever.
I don't think I've ever played it.
There's a certain point where you can move the ball where, like, Thing crawls out and grabs it, and, like, you lose a turn.
Oh.
It's really cute. And it also features original voice acting from Julia and Houston as Gomez and Morticia, and it went on to become the highest-selling pinball machine of all time at over 20,000 units, which doesn't seem like a lot, but considering every time I go to an arcade they have one, it must be a lot, actually.
Yeah, I mean, for pinball machines.
But anyway, so the 1991 film received mixed reviews from critics, but performed reasonably well at the box office. It opened to $24 million on a $30 million budget, but it grossed $191 million, which is pretty good. But the second film, The Addams Family Values, was highly regarded by critics, but performed really poorly at the box office for some reason. It only opened to $14 million, and it only grossed $48 million. The poor box office performance of the sequel, plus the sudden death of Julia in 1994, prevented Sonnenfeld from producing further films.
I'm glad that they didn't produce another film with the same cast, just replacing Gomez.
Yeah, that would have been, for sure. But fun fact, did you know that initially Paramount wasn't planning on using the TV theme song in the film?
What?
Right now, the producers actually thought that the song was too dated and it wouldn't fit in with the, like, dark comedy they had in mind. but they test screened the film with the theme song included, and it was a huge hit. So thankfully, the test screening worked out, because that, I think, would have been a huge mistake. But the Addams Family as a franchise has just been really popular for years and years. All in, there are 8 TV series or made-for-TV films and 5 feature films featuring the Addams Family. The most recent ones are the animated Addams Family films from 2019 and 2021, and the Netflix show Wednesday from 2022.
Also, since we can't get through an episode without food chat, and even though I've already talked about it, this is the actual meat of the episode, right? Meat. Ha. Anyway, there's a whole Addams Family inspired Halloween menu at Burger King that just debuted last week. Most of them are regular menu items in Addams Family designed packaging, but the purple Wednesday Whopper looks really cool. And it really does.
It does. I haven't had a Whopper in like 8 years, and I really, really want a purple one.
Yes.
And I want the crown.
You can get the crown. You can be the Burger King. Okay, so hopefully we can get some and like maybe post a picture on Instagram. But it looks really cool because the bun is purple. Like the Whopper looks Whoppery, but the bun is a purple bun, and I don't know. It's perfect for the spooky season.
I personally have no problem with food coloring, but I did also read that the purple in the bun is from purple sweet potato. They didn't actually put food coloring.
Oh, even better. It's healthy. Guys, go out and get yourself some Whoppers.
So it's healthy.
And Burger King, sponsor us.
Yeah, for real. That would be awesome.
But that kind of is we're in present times now, because this is actually happening right now.
This is happening right now. Do you have any more thoughts about the Addams Family or your favorite versions or anything else we didn't get to that you want to discuss?
Yes, so I do. And I wanted to talk about that since we aren't doing a traditional etiquette segment during spooky season, as you guys may remember from last week and the week before. We are talking about our favorite spooky media connections this season. So I wanted to talk about Wednesday and also something else regarding the Addams Family. But Wednesday, I think, was really good. And Wednesday, what I mean is the Wednesday on Netflix with Jenna Ortega and the guy from Beetlejuice. The other thing that I want to talk about is the Broadway musical, because there is an Addams Family Broadway musical, and it is amazing. And the original cast included Nathan Lane as Gomez and Bibi Nurith as Morticia, and they are amazing. And if you listen to I've never seen it. I am so mad that I, don't live in New York and don't have money to spend willfully. But the music is great, and it'll get stuck in your head. Especially Pulled, the song Pulled, where Wednesday sings about how she's being pulled away from being macabre and stuff. Anyway, it's great.
Ooh. Yeah. I need to go track that down. That is so cool.
Yeah, it's really, I really liked it. But
so since we also didn't come prepared with an etiquette segment, if you're done, I have prepared a fun lightning round for you.
Okay.
I'm going to see how many of these this or that questions you can answer in 30 seconds.
Okay, hold on. Stretches. Okay. Go.
Carolyn Jones or Angelica Houston?
Angelica Houston, duh.
The Addams Family or the Munsters?
The Addams Family.
The Addams Family 1991 or... Oops, wait, what?
I just went,
No, never mind. The Addams Family 1991 or the Addams Family Values 1993?
¿Por qué no los dos?
Christina Ricci or Jenna Ortega?
Christina Ricci.
And the Thing or Cousin It?
It. No, Thing. No, It.
Time. So I wrote down 7 questions and we only made it through 5 of them. Good. I had more than I needed.
Cool. Well, with that, it looks like we have landed the plane. Thank you guys all for listening today. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the show and tell a friend.
You can also follow us on Instagram at MCL Podcasts. This is the best place to send us feedback and episode suggestions, so send us a DM anytime. You can also find us on YouTube at MCL Podcasts, same handle. And you can also contact us through our new Send Us a Text Message feature in the show notes. And if you do, we'll read it on the next episode.
Yeah, so send us some fan mail, guys. And thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Mid-Century Living. Please subscribe, tell your friends, and leave a review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also follow us on Instagram at MCL Podcast. See you next Friday.